World News Tonight. Quake concerns. Iran suffers a magnitude 5.8 earthquake, leaving citizens concerned of potentially lethal destruction. Escalating violence. Fury after hundreds of people have been killed by an explosion at a crowded hospital in Gaza City. Fell short. Jim Jordan fails to win US House speakership on the first ballot. And Disney dreams. Hong Kong welcomes visitors to the world of Frozen, where fan-favorite characters come to life.
This is Derana World News Tonight. Reporting from Colombo, here is Anuradhi Vikramasinghe.
A very good evening and thank you for joining us on World News. Tonight we start off with some concerning updates in Iran. A magnitude 5.8 earthquake occurred in northern Hormozgan province of the country. The epicenter was about 61 kilometers north of the Bandar Abbas. The tremor occurred at a depth of about 10 kilometers and light shaking was felt across most of Hormozgan, southeastern Fars and southwestern Kerman provinces in Iran and far northern United Arab Emirates as well. There have been no initial reports of damage or casualties. However, damage is possible in areas near the epicenter. It could take several hours until authorities can conduct comprehensive damage assessments, especially in remote areas. Aftershocks are likely over the coming days. Officials may temporarily shut down transportation infrastructure in the tremor zone to check for damages. Minor disruptions could occur during shutdowns, but service will likely resume quickly if no damage is found. Utility outages are possible, particularly near the earthquake's epicenter. And over in China, President Xi Jinping proposed strengthening the institutional building for International Belt and Road Corporation. Xi made the remarks in his keynote speech at the opening ceremony of the forum. China's President Xi Jinping welcomed leaders and delegates from over 140 countries at the Belt and Road Initiative Summit in Beijing on October 17th. Celebrating 10 years since Xi launched the infrastructure project aimed at strengthening alliances with Asian, African and Latin American nations. The third Belt and Road Forum for the International Corporation was officially opened in Beijing on October 18th, with Chinese President Xi Jinping having delivered a keynote speech at the opening ceremony. World leaders gathered for a family photo before the BRI opened. At the BRI, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that close coordination with China on foreign policy was crucial in a difficult world. He also praised Chinese President Xi Jinping for the BRI and invited global investment in the Northern Sea route, which he said could deepen trade between the East and the West. Meanwhile, the United States, which sees the BRI as a tool for Beijing to extend its global influence at the expense of American power, has proposed its own investment program to boost global infrastructure development. Also at the BRI, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that he was horrified by the blast at a Gaza hospital that killed hundreds of people and strongly condemned the action. A massive blast has hit a hospital in central Gaza, killing hundreds of patients and civilians. Hamas blamed an Israeli airstrike, while Israeli military forces said Palestinian Islamic Jihad were behind the blast.
A massive blast struck Al-Aliyah Rabi Baptist Hospital in the center of Gaza City on Tuesday local time. A Palestinian health ministry official said at least 500 people were killed in the blast. Hamas said that an Israeli airstrike hit the hospital, while the Israeli Defense Forces said that misfired rockets by Palestinian Islamic Jihad militants were to blame. The group has denied the accusation. Hundreds of patients and civilians were reportedly seeking shelter at the hospital. Survivors of the strike were transferred to another hospital 1.5 kilometers away. The World Health Organization condemned the attack.
The WHO strongly condemns the attack on Al-Ahli Arab Hospital in the north of the Gaza Strip. The hospital was operational with patients, healthcare givers, and internally displaced people sheltering there.
The UN agency chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus on social media also called for the immediate protection of civilians and healthcare. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East also said at least 6 people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike that hit a school in Gaza run by the agency. Meanwhile, reported that an Israeli airstrike killed the Hamas armed commander Ayman Nofal in charge of the central Gaza area.
And following the Gaza hospital blast, U.S. President Joe Biden's summit with leaders from Jordan, Egypt and Palestinian authorities have been cancelled just as he was set to take off to Israel. He's on his way to Israel now to reaffirm Washington's solidarity.
U.S. President Joe Biden is heading to Israel on Wednesday. That is according to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken following his more than 7-hour-long meeting in Tel Aviv with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his board cabinet.
He's coming here at a critical moment for Israel, for the region, and for the world. And he's coming here to do the following. First, the President will reaffirm the United States' solidarity with Israel and our ironclad commitment to its security.
Biden's visit comes as fears are growing that the latest flare-up in the Israel-Hamas war could spill into other countries in the region. Tensions have been escalating in the Middle East, with Israel exchanging fire with Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah near its northern border with Lebanon. Iran has issued warnings against Israel's operations in Gaza.
Leaders of the resistance will not allow the Zionist regime to do whatever it wants in Gaza and then go after other resistance groups after it's done with Gaza. Therefore, any preemptive action is possible in the coming hours.
With world leaders such as UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan expressing the importance of avoiding further regional escalation, experts predict President Biden will also use his visit to avert the war's expansion. Addressing the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza is also on Biden's agenda, where civilians are facing severe shortages of water, electricity, and fuel.
The President will hear from Israel how it will conduct its operations in a way that minimizes civilian casualties and enables humanitarian assistance to flow to civilians in Gaza in a way that does not benefit Hamas.
Biden will also continue his efforts to secure the release of at least 199 hostages held by Hamas. The militant group on Monday released a video showing a 21-year-old Israeli hostage who appeared to be suffering from an arm injury. This marks the first time that Hamas has made public a video of a hostage held in Gaza.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed his forces used long-range ATACMS missiles to strike 2 air bases in Ukrainian territory, now controlled by Russia. It draws anger from the Kremlin against Washington for supplying these munitions.
Ukraine's military has shared video they say shows their first use of US long-range missiles against Russian forces. Ukraine says the Army Tactical Missile Systems, or ATACMS, inflicted heavy damage on 2 airfields on Tuesday in Russian-occupied territory in the east of Ukraine called Luhansk and in the south in Berdyansk on the Sea of Azov. Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the use of the weapons in his nightly address.
Today, special thanks to the United States. Our agreements with United States President Joe Biden are being implemented. Very accurately, ATACMS proved themselves. Glory to Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini.
Kiev earlier reported destroying 9 Russian helicopters, anti-air defenses, runways and other equipment in Berdyansk and Luhansk. Russian military bloggers appeared to corroborate those attacks, saying the Kremlin's forces suffered losses of personnel and equipment in strikes carried out with ATACMS. Russia's ambassador to the US, Anatoly Antonov, called Tuesday's attack a grave mistake. He was quoted by Russian agencies saying the United States continues to push for a direct clash between NATO and Russia. Tuesday is Ukraine's first confirmed use of ATACMS, which can fly up to 190 miles. The White House confirmed on Tuesday it recently provided Kiev with a variant that can hit targets up to 102 miles away. Washington had delivered the missiles to Kyiv in secret. Western partners have been careful with supplying long-range missiles Kyiv needs for its 4-month-old counter-offensive, fearing it would provoke the Kremlin. Ukraine has pledged not to use them inside Russia's territory, but said the powerful weapons would alter the course of the Russo-Ukraine war, now in its 20th month. Senior officials say deploying the weapons would let Ukraine disrupt previously unreachable supply lines, air bases, and rail networks used by Russia in occupied territories.
Let's go for a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Let's move on to the road to the White House now. A courtroom settlement over withheld COVID-19 data that critics say cost thousands of lives has deflated Ron DeSantis' campaign trail persona as a courageous freedom warrior who kept his state open during a deadly peak of the pandemic. It comes at a pivotal time for the Florida governor, whose teetering run for the Republican presidential nomination is mired in financial difficulties and collapsing poll numbers in early primary states. Among the efforts DeSantis has made to try to arrest his side among Republican hardliners include positioning himself as a champion for medical freedom and defying federal health guidance to advise Floridians against taking new COVID booster shots. In reality, as DeSantis dismissed reporting on the pandemic as media hysteria, the Delta variant of the virus was just taking hold, and cases and fatalities spiked to a record 385 a day in Florida. Simultaneously, Florida led the nation in pediatric COVID hospitalizations. Critics dubbed DeSantis the Pied Piper of COVID, leaving everybody off a cliff. And he forged ahead with an executive order banning mask mandates in schools, having already signed legislation awarding himself veto power over coronavirus mandates set by municipalities. 23,000 Floridians died during the Delta surge. And not only did the DeSantis administration restrict information on COVID during that time, they repeatedly downplayed the severity of the outbreak to fit their political narrative and help DeSantis run for president. That decision cost lives, said Carlos Guillermo Smith, a Democratic former state congressman who filed a lawsuit against the Florida Health Department, later joined by the Florida Center for Government Accountability. Republican Jim Jordan fell short of the 217 votes needed to win House Speaker. Despite the setback, Jordan says he will not give up. It is the 14th day and still the U.S. House is without a speaker.
Tonight, the congressional drama over the next Speaker of the House continues. In the first vote of the day, the next man up, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, fell short of the 217 votes needed, with 20 GOP members supporting other candidates. Jordan went to work behind the scenes to win over skeptical moderates, still angry about the way former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was pushed out. Despite the setback, Jordan saying he's not giving up.
So we get a speaker. We got to have a speaker, and it can't be some deal with the Democrats. I mean, American people don't want that.
But several of the members who voted against Jordan warned they could not be won over, with some even asking for McCarthy to return.
We should go back to what we had, who was a great speaker, really good for our conference.
Jordan's candidacy is controversial. He voted to object to the 2020 election results. On the floor, Democrats attacked Jordan's record.
Even leaders of his own party have called him a legislative terrorist.
And more reports suggest there have been weapons transfers from North Korea to Russia, as large cargo ships have reportedly been spotted carrying North Korean weapons, presumably ammunition, to Russia on multiple occasions for use in the war in Ukraine.
According to the Washington Post on Monday, new satellite images show that Russian ships have collected cargo back and forth from North Korea to a Russian military port on multiple occasions over the past 2 months. 2 commercial ships involved previously had not run that particular route prior to August. The White House last week said that North Korea has shipped more than 1,000 containers of weapons to Russia in recent weeks.
We condemn the DPRK for providing Russia with this military equipment, which will be used to attack Ukrainian cities, kill Ukrainian civilians, and further Russia's illegitimate war.
An unnamed official from Seoul's defense ministry confirmed the transport of containers between North Korea and Russia. The official added that the volume of containers is equal to the tens of thousands of shells that Russia needs the most. Seoul's foreign ministry said that weapons exchange with North Korea is a clear violation of the UN Security Council resolution.
It is a serious violation of peace and stability on the Korean peninsula, and we urge for an immediate halt.
Meanwhile, Pyongyang announced that Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is making an official visit on Wednesday and Thursday. Talks may involve Putin's return visit to Pyongyang following Kim's visit to Russia's Far East last month, where they discussed military matters.
Washington has announced a set of rules to update and strengthen restrictions on the export of advanced computing chips to China in an apparent move to further curb China's technological advancement.
The Biden administration said on Tuesday it plans to halt shipments to China of advanced artificial intelligence chips designed by NVIDIA and others. The move is aimed at stopping Beijing from getting cutting-edge U.S. technologies to strengthen its military. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said the new measures would close loopholes in regulations released last year and will probably be updated at least annually. She stressed the policy change was not designed to hurt China economically. The rules will exempt most consumer chips used in laptops, smartphones, and gaming, though some will be subject to licensing and notification requirements by U.S. officials. In a statement, top AI chip designer NVIDIA said it complies with the current regulations and does not expect a near-term meaningful impact to its financial results from the new rules. Investors, however, appeared concerned as the stock fell as much as 7% in early trading before reducing those losses. Other chip stocks suffered smaller declines. Liz Miller, founder and president of Summit Place Financial Advisors, said she thinks the move won't have a long-term impact on the sector.
In the chip market, we're seeing a new wave come through so strongly from computing demands from AI that while I think these new rules may be a bit of a short-term stumbling block and may even be just political negotiating, I think the company fundamentals will remain strong as we look forward.
The Chinese embassy in Washington did not immediately respond to requests for comment on the new measures, which also apply to Iran, Russia, and other countries.
Welcome back. The UN urges more international focus on Myanmar's Rohingya refugees. For more on that story and much more, let's take you around the world in a minute. The United Nations Refugee Agency urged the international community to keep focus on the plight of the Rohingya refugees amid a funding crunch and the lack of long-term solutions for their safe return to Myanmar. Forest fires have destroyed crops in Santa Cruz region and ravaged thousands of hectares of the Noel-Kampf Machado National Park, a gateway to the pristine Amazonian rainforest. In the Belgian capital of Brussels, a gunman who killed 2 Swedish citizens and injured another has been shot dead. 6 months after tensions between rival Sudanese generals ignited a devastating war, thousands lie dead while millions are displaced. More than 400,000 people have crossed the border into Chad to seek refuge. Venezuela's government and its political opposition agreed to electoral guarantees for 2024 presidential elections, paving the way for a possible U.S. sanctions relief. And that is all we have for you on World News Tonight. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you updates from across the globe. If you missed any of today's programs, you can always rewatch by catching us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/AdaDerana-English. We leave you tonight in Hong Kong, where visitors got to experience the magic of Disney at the brand new World of Frozen attraction. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.